Testing mic 1 2 3. Let's see whether it works. Right. So Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, brothers and sisters in Islam. Welcome to yet again another live stream from the Muslim Apologist, and I'm your host MENJ. Right. So unfortunately, things are a bit chaotic at my house because we are expecting more guests coming in for Eid. I an Eid open house. Yes. As the saying goes in Malaysia, puasa sebulan, raya sebulan. So roughly it means if you fast for a month, that means you will celebrate, or you can celebrate Eid for a month. So yes, unfortunately there is a culture here in Malaysia. So yes, we are still having guests for Eid. Will you believe it? Okay, so in Malaysia we are still celebrating Eid, although I know that of course in probably in everywhere else in the Muslim world, Eid has pretty much is pretty much over, right? But in Malaysia, we are still celebrating it, and this will continue until the end of the month, right? So basically, it will be for the whole of May, all right? So that's just how it is in this region, okay, the Nusantara region or the Southeast Asian region. This is how we celebrate Eid al-Fitri, okay? Obviously, the first day of Eid would be the most important day of all, but we're still receiving guests for Eid. So mostly they would be relatives or friends or close friends or people whom we know, which we invite. Sometimes they just come in unannounced. Okay, so they just suddenly uh, call, make a call over the phone saying, "Hey, we want to come over to your house for Eid." So yeah, so by of course by convention we cannot refuse, so we prepare for the arrival, obviously. Okay, so I think according to my mom, my uncle will be here with his family. So so because of this, I don't think I will be able to do a live stream for more than 2 hours stops or 3 hours stops. Okay, in fact, I'm not even sure whether I can do it for 1 hour. Okay, because I'm going to have to help out in the kitchen and so on. And I think my cousins are going to come into the room anyway. So yes, so this is pretty much what's going to happen. All right. Oh, brother Servant Owo is here. Walaikum salam warahmatullah. Brother, welcome to the show. Right. So um, probably this will be my shortest live stream, live Q&A ever, because I might have to end this a bit earlier than usual, because as you know, I usually end my live streams like 3 or 4 hours later. I think the longest live stream that I had was like 5 hours. Yeah, and the shortest was about I think it was about 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours, I think. So I think I'm going to beat the record for being the shortest live stream ever for the live Q&A series, which might be just 1 hour. Okay. I mean, the reason why I didn't cancel, I could have postponed the live stream, but the reason why I didn't do this is because I didn't want to disappoint you. Okay. And also the reason why I did not switch on my camera is because I'm not exactly dressed for the live stream. So that is why I did not, switch on the camera. And I think I'll just be this, this embodied floating head for now. Okay. So yeah. So if anyone wants to come onto the live stream, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'm going to have to, end the stream a bit more earlier than expected. Okay. So yeah, we'll give some time for people to join, because usually my live streams will only get livelier. Okay. Excuse the pun. After about 15 minutes or so. Okay, because more people will come in, will join in, and then yes, for the first 10 minutes or so, there won't be many people coming onto the live stream or even watching the stream. But then after 15 minutes, or sometimes even after 30 minutes, or sometimes even after 1 hour, suddenly there will be a surge of people coming into the live stream. That's usually the case, right? But like I said earlier, I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but I might need to end the stream much earlier, because yes, I'm actually going to have my uncle visiting my house, so with his family, and it's a large family. By the way, my uncle has 10 kids, right? He's one of the few uncles I know who actually has more than 3 or 4 children. Okay, so yes. So sorry, not 10. I mean, I was a bit exaggerate. I was exaggerating a bit. He has seven children, but I think probably only 3 or 4 of them will come to the house. So yeah, because most of them are already married and they have their own families, and yeah. So let me see now how many cousins from that side of the family. I think 7 of them, and out of that 7, let me see how many got married. Number 1 got married. Number 2, number 3 didn't get married. Hasn't gotten married yet. Number 4 has. Number 5 has. Number 6 has, and number 7 has not. I think number 6 and number 7 have not. So at least 3 or 4 of them have gotten married. Yeah. So I don't think the married couples will be here. So it will be the ones who have not yet got married. Okay. So yeah. So anyway, if anyone wants to come onto the live stream, you're most welcome to do so. But like I said, there is a time limit to this because I'm going to have to end this live stream much earlier. So yes, hurry up and join the live stream, right? If you have a question about Islam, if you want to debate with me about Islam, if you want to, ask questions about Islam, if you want to just have a chat, a casual chat with me about Islam. Hey, it doesn't need to be about Islam, right? It can be about anything else. It can be about Christianity. It can be about football, even. Okay, whatever, right? So but of course, let's try not to stray to stray too far from the topic, right? So anyway, before I continue, as usual, I will have my intro. Yes, and we are back. Thank you for those who have been with me for the past. The live stream has been running for the past 9 minutes and 32 seconds. Sorry, it's 35 seconds now. And there are 3 viewers watching this live stream. Okay, so if you want to join the live stream, as I mentioned earlier, I might need to end the live stream a bit earlier, but I'm still giving the chance for you to come onto the live stream, and there's the link in the chat. You can actually come onto the chat, onto the back chat by clicking on the link that has been provided in the chat. And yes, you can come onto the backstage, and yes, I will invite you onto the stage, right? So, oh, brother Omar is here. Walaikum salam warahmatullah, brother Omar. So good to see you, mashallah. Yes, I guess you'll be wondering why I have not activated my webcam. The reason is simply because I'm not dressed for the occasion, right? So I'm actually wearing a singlet and short pants, all right? So I don't feel comfortable showing myself on camera at the moment. And yeah, anyways, I think it would be good once in a while to appear as this embodied floating logo head, right? So yeah, once in a while. Okay, so yes, I'm still waiting for people to come onto stage. There's 4 viewers right now watching the live stream. Yes, there's 4 viewers right now. So yes, brother Omar, you should plan a debate with someone on. It's funny that you should mention this because right now I'm actually watching One Piece. Okay, I've been watching One Piece for the past 2 weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks now, and right now I'm on episode 180. Okay, I'm actually in the middle of it, but because that is why I actually started the live stream a bit late because it was supposed to start at 10:15 a.m. Malaysian time, so it should be around 10:15 p.m. your time if you are in the US. But I was still watching episode 180 of One Piece, so I kind of delayed the time somewhat. So in the end, I did not start the live stream at 10:15 a.m. I started it at about 15 minutes later. So or roughly around 10 minutes later. So here we are right now. Okay. So I've actually paused my watching of uh the 180th episode of One Piece. Okay. It's still in my media player here. So I've just paused it. Okay. So as you can see, I'm very dedicated to this live stream. I'm putting I'm actually placing priority on the live stream first before anything else, right? So even One Piece cannot defeat my priority in having this live stream. I mean, I actually thought of canceling the live stream, to be honest, because of me wanting to watch One Piece, as well as guests coming to the house. But then when I think about it, I realize when I thought about it a little bit deeper, I realized I've already queued it up for scheduling, and if I were to do that, a lot of people will be disappointed. So better late than never, right? So I decided to just go ahead with the live stream. But yes, because I'm not decently dressed for the show, therefore I've deactivated the camera. That's it. Okay, but I'm still here. Okay, I'm still the same MENJ. It's just that you won't be seeing me on camera at the moment, right? So yes, okay. So as I mentioned earlier, I might need to end the live stream a bit earlier than usual, but I'm still inviting people to come onto the live stream, and we have brother servant of Allah on the backstage, so I'm inviting the brother onto the stage. Assalamualaikum, brother.
السلام وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته, brother Manju. How are you doing?
I'm good, Alhamdulillah. I'm good. It's just that things are going to be a bit hectic because, as mentioned earlier in the live
Don't
stream,
worry,
I
don't
might
worry,
need to.
don't worry. We
I
can
might.
feel the stress. We can feel the
I'm
stress.
Yes, that's right. You see, I'm a bit disappointed that I actually had to cancel it, but I mean, not sorry, I had to end the live stream. I may need to end the live stream a bit earlier, but these are my relatives. You see, so it's the culture
Of
in
course,
Malaysia that
Fa-
your
family
relatives will
first,
suddenly come
Habibi.
into your
Family
house.
first. We know
I
from
don't
the
think you have.
Arab side.
Oh, right. So do you have this culture in Morocco where your family suddenly comes and visit you during Eid, even though there's no Eid anymore for 1 month?
Well, no, I don't live in Morocco. I live in Belgium.
In
So,
Belgium, yeah. I mean,
but the
even
culture,
in where you stay
yeah,
right now,
but the culture there
you have
is,
this, you
yeah,
have this
people
culture.
come y- there, not here. They have that culture where they just visit each other, but it um, it doesn't go over the 3 days of Eid. It doesn't. They don't
Ah,
make it a
okay.
month. That's
Yes.
exceptional
In
for you guys, I
Malaysia,
think.
in, that's the thing. In Indonesia, in Malaysia, in this region, the countries in the region, Brunei, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, even we extend it for a month.
But how come?
We do it for a month.
Why?
Like I said earlier on in the stream, is kind of a tongue in cheek proverb or idiom, but we say in Malaysia or in basically in this region, puasa sebulan, raya sebulan. It means you fast for a month, therefore you deserve to have the feast, you have the Eid for a month as well. Yes, I know it's funny. I know it's hilarious, but this is how we think. This is the culture, and that is why that is why this Eid, as we know it in Malaysia, will continue until the end of the month, which is basically until end of May.
MashaAllah.
Okay.
Well, if it's family with, meeting each other, there's nothing wrong with that.
But yeah,
So,
it's basically it's just family meeting because because honestly speaking, because in Malaysia we have very large families. Like for example, on my mother's side, my mom has about 11 siblings. Okay, 11 siblings. On my dad's side, he has about 6 or 7 siblings. So it's actually impossible for all seven siblings on my dad's side, or for all 11 siblings on my mom's side to come and visit each other during a 3-day period. Okay, even if it's a week, it's very difficult. And not just that, you see, we also believe in I don't know whether I don't know whether you have this in Morocco or Belgium, but we also extend this to our extended family. So on my dad's side, for example, he has his grand uncle. Okay, so he has his uncle. So he has an uncle, and then their children will come to our house. You see, so so that's that, and then their children's children will come to our house as well. So it extends to that as well, and that's not including my mom's side, right? So so honestly speaking, 1 week is not enough. 3 days is not enough. 1 week is not enough. You actually really need the whole month.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Yes. Yes.
Might need do you have enough space? You
Yeah,
all of them?
Space is not an issue. They won't come all at once, you see, because some of them will say, okay, we want to come on this day, and then another family would say, okay, we would like to come on the following week. So it's staggered, and yes, we accommodate. We try to accommodate with their scheduling, and so there's a proper. Of course, obviously, we can't accommodate all of them at once. I mean, imagine if 7 families were to suddenly come onto the house. There would
Halas,
be
you
like
should just create it, make an app. Make an app.
no. Usually these kind of things.
Reservation.
My parents, my parents will be the one being organizing the reservation, so to speak. Okay, so so this is just how it is. Okay, so yeah, this is the
Yeah,
culture in Malaysia.
Alhamdulillah.
This is how.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. You see,
I mean, I guess.
the
Yeah.
go on. Sorry, man.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, brother.
I was
No,
saying that
sorry. Go ahead.
the generation before ours was the generation where Moroccan families, whether in Belgium, whether in Morocco, really had a lot of kids. Like I come from,
Yeah.
my parents have 10 kids. So, um,
Oh,
but now this new generation, you can see like families having 2 kids, 3 max.
yeah.
They're basically limited.
Yeah. I only have one. Yeah, I
MashaAllah.
only have one son. Yeah,
MashaAllah.
but yeah, but no, my wife originally when I first married my wife, she said that she wanted 11 children, but due to her, I don't think it's
Okay.
possible now because of her age, and also because actually my wife had a miscarriage, earlier on in the pregnancy, the first pregnancy, she actually had a miscarriage. My son now is actually from the second pregnancy. So because of this, I'm a bit hesitant about basically making her pregnant again because of her health issues, and she has diabetes, she has high blood pressure. So I don't want to I don't want to place medical unnecessary burden on her just because she wants
Yeah,
more children. I mean, I know that she wants children, you see, but I'm worried for her. So I don't feel
exactly
that she's
the
capable of
pre-
yeah,
prevention
yeah, because of the
of
medical.
health. Yeah,
Yeah,
I understand. But
I mean, halas, we already have one son. Yeah, we already have one son, so mashallah, that's already a risk from all. So why we would need to ask for more? You see, that's already enough, I
yeah,
think. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah.
Mm.
Um, no,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like you said, yeah, but Allahu A'lam, you never know. Allah is great, Allah is big.
Of course,
So
obviously.
you
I
can
mean,
end
if
up with
Allah subhanahu
30,
wa ta'ala,
40.
yes, that's right. So who knows? Maybe if she gets pregnant again, who knows? Mashallah, that would be another. That will be a gift from God, obviously. But
Exactly.
honestly speaking, I'm not too keen on it, okay, because of her medical issues. It's not because of anything. It's not really
Yeah,
because
I understand.
I don't want to. I would love to have 3 kids, 5 kids, mashallah, that would be wonderful. My parents have I have 4 siblings, so I come from a relatively large family. I guess 5 siblings is quite. I mean, nowadays 5 is considered quite a large family. Okay, these days I notice my friends, Muslims, okay, they only have like one child or three children at the most. Yeah, not many people will go more than 3. Yeah,
It started to
yeah.
the Western
Mhm.
um, the Western started to affect that too, I
Yeah,
think, in
I guess
Malaysia side.
exactly. Yeah, it's starting to
Yeah.
affect our culture. 'Cause it used to be like during my parents' time. I mean, like I've just mentioned just now, my mom has 11 siblings. Okay, okay.
MashaAllah.
And technically speaking, it should be 12, but that brother died. That sibling died when he was very young. Okay,
Oh, Allah
I
yarham.
think he was yeah, I think he had a high fever when he was barely 1 years of age, and then he just died. He passed away. So yeah, so he
Oh,
died when he was very young. But
oh,
anyway,
Allah yarham.
the remaining siblings, I know there are 11 of them. So imagine that. Yeah, imagine
MashaAllah.
11 siblings.
MashaAllah.
It's a lot.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
This is
Yes.
MashaAllah. And you
Yeah.
said you have four siblings. Does anyone in your
Yeah.
family have um, any studies or interests in
All of
what
them
you're
are
doing?
all of them are married now. All of them are married now, mashallah. Yeah.
No, no, I mean in the subject of apologetics or just in general
Ah,
religion.
I'm the only one. I'm the only one doing it. The rest are all doing their own thing. Okay,
MashaAllah.
my sisters, but all of them are
But
girls. Okay,
you're
okay.
the
So
teacher then, inshallah.
I'm the only guy in the house. The only boy sibling.
MashaAllah.
Okay, so yeah, so
MashaAllah.
anyway, all
I
of us are already married. Yeah, and we all have our children. Okay, but I'm the only one who has been involved in apologetics for quite a long while. None of them, the others are not really interested in apologetics. They do their own thing. Yeah, I mean, they just basically they just mind their own lives, and they just pursue other interests. Yeah, nothing whatsoever to do with religion. Okay, I guess I'm a bit more God conscious than them because I actually I mean I mean I actually have Bibles in my house, in my room, right? So that's in Malaysia, that's considered to be quite odd for a Muslim to own many Bibles in his room. Okay, I'm
unless
a
it's for
rarity
studying,
among.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even studying the Bible for a Muslim to study the Bible is something very odd among Muslim Malaysians. Okay, to see a Muslim doing this. Yeah, I mean, of course, lately it's not so strange because I've met other Malaysian Muslims who do the same. But when I first started out, I was among the very, very few who has done this. You see, so yeah.
MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. And last week I wasn't able to be present.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, I
So I
understand. I
want to
understand
make
because
I
I
want
changed the time. Yeah, I changed the timing at the
ليش?
last minute actually. Because,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
Unfortunately,
I
I had
wanted
to
to make sure.
because in the morning. Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, 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 no worries. I think there's just a delay. And that's why it keeps interrupting. Um, yeah, I wanted to say
No, it's
that. I
okay.
just
Yeah.
um, wanted to especially make it today. Uh, just
Oh,
so when I woke up for Fajr, just waited a little bit. Um,
so
yeah.
right now it
So
should be around Fajar, right, for you? You're in Belgium,
Fajr is already passed. No, it's passed already.
so it should be around 7. I
No,
assume you'll be around 7 or 8 a.m.
no, it's 4:50 a.m. here.
4:50 a.m. and Fajar has
Yeah,
passed.
yeah.
Oh, that's quite early, isn't it? I mean, for my
Y-
standards, it's quite early because my Fajar is really around 6 to 7.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, with us it's 3:20.
Oh my God, Asar is a three. Here in Malaysia, Asar is around 4:30 or 5, depending. Yeah, for usually 4
Yeah,
4:30. Yeah,
so
yeah,
there's
yeah. It's a bit late.
العصر for us it's almost 6.
Oh wow. If 6, then it's already close to Maghrib for us.
Oh yeah, well
Yeah, I guess it's just about timing.
Our Isha is at
Yeah.
11:30 p.m.
My God, that's so late. Oh my God.
Yeah.
By 11 p.m., I've already. sleeping. Isha is around 8:30, 8:30.
Subhanallah.
Yeah, 8:30. It's around 8:30.
And how can people
Wow.
think?
Okay. Yeah,
I don't
it's about
understand.
5
I don't understand
Yeah,
how
it's about
people
5
can go to flat earths, flat earthers,
Yes.
like like
I don't get flat earthers. I don't get it.
it's
I don't understand
illogical.
why there are still flat earthers on this planet right now. I mean, I go to MDD, modern day debate, and I still see debates flat Earth versus round Earth. I was like, what? Why are you debating this? This is not a topic to be debated about. This is pretty much settled. This has been pretty much settled 600 years ago. Why are we still debating about this?
I,
I don't
I
understand
did.
this. Why
I,
yeah.
if you go to their channel, you do see all like the majority of the debates. It's all about flat Earths. It's all about debates
My God.
about, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I noticed. I
okay,
noticed. But I really don't get it. Why are we having people still thinking about it? I mean, can't you see the planet? I mean the photos that NASA took. It's pretty clear, isn't it? I mean, if you don't believe the photos, then try walking around the Earth and see what happens. Do you arrive at the end of you know at the end of the world,
no,
and do you see the sea falling down? I mean, if it's a flat Earth, then obviously the sea has to go somewhere, right?
yeah, I get it. They're gonna fall off somewhere.
They're going
Uh,
to fall off somewhere, right? But the thing is, I mean, it's not. I mean, they can't prove that the Earth is flat, but we have so many evidence that proves that the Earth is round,
but
or basically.
brother Mensch, tell me how how important is it, whether it's if it's flat or if it's round?
I guess it is
Like,
because in the sense of times and time zones and
oh,
determining
the time zone is
the
already determined, right? So,
yes, that's right. Yeah, I mean maybe in terms of yeah, like, yeah, I would say for me, uh the time zones will be important, with determining the sun, the position of the sun. Why? I probably it will be more of a knowledge based thing. I'll be like, let's say if I were living in a cave somewhere and I didn't know that the earth is round or flat, and I see the sun appearing in the morning and then the moon in at night. Surely that would trigger my curiosity, right? I mean, this is human nature, right? We would be wondering why the sun appears in the morning, and the moon appears at
well,
night.
of
Why is it
course, like
dark? Yeah,
uh, logically, from we are what we are sure of, right? Uh, it is without any proofs needed. It just you can just see it that it is not a flat thing. But I'm
is
trying
it?
to emphasize what is what does it bring to the table if someone is trying to put the argument on the table? Does it disprove God
Mhm.
existence? Does it prove anything? Does it like disprove anything? Does it will it make you gain something in your religion? Will it make you like will the day of resurrection Allah ask you, hey, was it flat? Was it round? Like
I guess
you
I guess
see?
you just be looking for the truth for truth's sake. It wouldn't really affect our deen or anything of the sort, right? So it's not really important, right? I mean, we just
Yeah,
continue our lives anyway.
exactly, because in the Quran itself, there's two places where it's mentioned, and
Hmm.
it is not an ambiguous verse.
Hmm.
It's unambiguous.
Okay.
It's to interpretation. So you can interpret it, and so it's not black or white. Um,
Right.
so that's why there's consensus that's still like even in the Muslims who have debated
Yeah.
these kind of things. But
Yeah.
there's a purpose why Allah didn't make it black or white, right? Because He could have just
Yeah.
said it
Yes. That's
very clearly. But
yeah.
I think the fact is like okay. I've put it there. You read, like, are you going to waste time on that, or are you going to waste time on something that is expected from you to look
Exactly.
into instead of
Right.
fighting over something? Yeah, I just wanted
Yes.
to
If I not,
come up.
this actually reminds me. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure whether this is the right person or not. But I think Ibn Baz, I think he did mention that he believes that the Earth was flat. Did he say that? Did he say this? Was it a fatwa that he made?
Who, sorry?
Ibn Baz.
Ibn Abbas.
No, not Ibn Abbas. Ibn Baz, the sheikh, the
Inubas.
mufti of yeah, Ibn Baz. Yeah. I think he said.
I
I
can't
think he made a fatwa.
I can't
I came
confirm.
across a fatwa. Yeah, I can't confirm it myself, but there has been some web pages which I've seen, which says that Ibn Baz made a fatwa that the Earth is flat. But then again, he was blind, so so
But
maybe he
but
thought,
where's
yeah, maybe he
but
had
I don't
knowledge
understand.
somewhere else. I don't.
I don't
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
What do you what fatwa? Like what what
He said something
what
along
would it be?
the lines of he said something along the lines of the Earth is flat, and if you don't believe that the Earth is flat, then you're committing kufr or something like this.
Is
Yes.
is that a fatwa?
Yeah, it is a fatwa. That's the thing. Yeah,
No, I think
yeah,
they started to um,
yeah.
create
But then
a
again,
different kind of.
by his own, yeah, but his opinion is rejected anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm just saying it as a matter of fact. And but unfortunately, the
Exactly.
Christians, they took this and they manipulated it, obviously. But you have to understand that Ibn Baz was an old man when he made this fatwa, and also he was blind, so he couldn't have
Mm.
seen how the world worked anyway. He's just making his opinion based on his what he perceived the world to be. You see, so can't fault him for it. Okay, so but anyways, of course, obviously, the majority of scholars don't accept this fatwa, so it's not a problem for us, right?
Yeah, that, that adds something to the basket of what I wanted to like say for a while now,
Yeah.
that you hear
Okay.
those
Yeah.
fatwas that are given everywhere, like
Yeah.
fatwas that you just can't like comprehend, like what? And
Mm,
uh, I'm starting to just see it commercialized. Like there's going to be an app where you could
mm,
just
mm.
do fatwa shopping. You'll find one alim somewhere who will do it for you, who make you a fatwa, and it's going to be just
Okay.
like you're in the app, you want a fatwa for this, and he'll make it for you. I mean,
Oh,
it's starting to
okay.
lose this, I don't know, this seriousness,
Sanctity.
perspective, the sanctity.
You mean
Yeah,
the sacredness, the sanctity? Yeah. I understand. I understand where you're
exactly.
coming from.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
I
anyone
don't
can do a
know.
fatwa. I mean, because I mean, this. We don't have any priesthood or any religious or authority over us. Okay, apart from what you know whom we acknowledge as religious scholars. Okay, so anyone can make a fatwa. Okay, if I were appointed as a mufti the next day, I can make fatwas. All right, but obviously I'm not knowledgeable enough to make fatwas.
Yeah,
So
what would be
we are not.
what would be your first fatwa? Yeah,
Yeah, that's
as a
right. So
ruler.
we don't have any we don't have priest. Yes, exactly. So we don't have priesthood or anything of the sort. You see, so it's totally
No, like
our yeah,
imagine
yeah,
you're the leader
yeah.
tomorrow, and you can make fatwa. What would be your first one that you can make that you would make there?
Oh, that's an interesting question. That's an interesting question. Um,
More root
um,
beer?
let's say if I do have such, the first thing I would do is probably to I would encourage Muslims to make to openly preach Islam to everyone. I will make it obligatory for every Muslim to reach out to their non-Muslim friends or relatives and preach Islam to them. That's probably what I
So
would do.
so dawah, you mean? Okay.
Yeah,
So
dawah, yes,
yeah,
not
that,
not
and
and And apologetics. And apologetics. Yeah.
And what would be the
And apologetics.
punishment?
The punishment would be a fine. Probably a community service, or a fine, depending. And then the money, of course, will be put into NGO or an organization that would do dawah, obviously.
Yeah, and everyone has to first subscribe to the Muslim Apologist. Obliged,
Obviously,
obviously.
of course.
Akhi, I think
Okay.
there's a back chat in the back chat who,
Yeah,
who
yes, I can see that he's in the back chat. Yeah, this guy has his
yeah,
weird theories. But okay, I'm going to invite you on, Wesley, but please don't come here with your funny theories, please. I just want to have a chat with you. Hi
yeah,
there.
apparently he already, okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Wesley, are you there?
Hi, yes. I just wanted to say, when I pray to Jesus, hundreds of nuclear bombs are safely destroyed. Millions of people are healed. What happens when you pray to your Allah?
When I pray to my Allah, I receive salvation from Allah. Yeah. I mean, I don't see Jesus coming and appearing in front of me, telling me to worship him.
Yeah,
So I don't see
yeah, I know
any.
that's a real silly game that you frogheads play. Well, when you did see Allah, did you see he had two fangs on his throat, a dead black frog head? It came out of the mouth of Satan when Satan told you don't tell the vision. Satan paralyzed you.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I think he's already being ridiculous. Sorry, speaking a lot. He's
Yeah,
making fun of Allah. I think, yeah, I think it's ridiculous. But anyway, to answer your question, Wesley, if you're still here, we don't believe that Allah can appear as a man or as a being or as a frog. Okay, so no, if you can see an object, if you can see a living thing, that's not Allah. It's that simple. Okay, so if you can see Jesus as a man or as in some form, then that's not God. It's that simple. Okay, so we don't believe in God appearing in the material world. Nor do we believe that we have the capacity to see God in the material world or in a dreamscape. Okay, unless of course in the hereafter is a different story, but that already involves eschatology, and I don't think I want to get into that. Okay, so anyway, if you don't mind, brother servant of Allah, I'm going to read some of the comments here because there's this brother here,
sure,
Ilyas
go on,
Al
brother.
Maudi. Brother Ilyas Al Maudi says, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum akhi. Okay. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Wow, I could read that. Assalamu alaikum akhi.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
I'm actually taking up I'm starting to take up Arabic lessons, and I'm learning the grammar. So I've learned two words in Arabic, jalasa and darasa. I think darasa. Yeah. So ana darasta and ana jalasta. So there's the grammar that I learned. So it's past tense, right?
MashaAllah. Yes, MashaAllah.
So I'm learning present tense. So I'm trying to, of course, I can't remember the rest, but I have the notes here with me, so I'm slowly picking it
Okay,
up.
the
Yeah,
most important is
I'm
that you
starting to take
try.
up Arabic. Sorry, yeah.
The most
Sorry,
important thing
go
is
ahead.
that you try, like you said.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So I need to memorize the grammar. Like I said before, the tricky part of Arabic is not really the alphabets or the pronunciations or the sounds, because as a Muslim, I've been reading the Quran for goodness knows how long, right? So we are actually taught the Arabic characters, and of course we are taught to read the Quran. The problem is the vocabulary, maybe to memorize the vocabulary and to figure out the grammar, because the grammar has changes, right? The tools, the end of the words change whenever you want to talk, you want to say something in past tense or present tense. And in other languages, usually you need to add another word, or you need to add another suffix or prefix to change the present tense or the past tense. But in Arabic, it's a bit tricky because when you change the last part, then you get a bit confused because you don't remember which goes where. You see? Yeah.
Yeah, a question, do you what is the intention of wanting to learn Arabic?
The intention is simple, just to first of all, of course, to understand the Quran. Obviously, that's the most important thing. Secondly, is because I want to access the Arabic text, the Islamic Arabic text. I want to read the Hadith in its original language. I want to read the Tafsir in its, Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Al-Kutubi, Tafsir Al-Jalalain, Ibn Taymiyyah's works, right? All of these texts in Arabic. I don't want to read the translations. Okay, that's the second thing. Thirdly, I want to do if I do reach a point where I can speak Fusha Arabic, I want to start making videos in or making live streams in Arabic, Fusha Arabic. Yeah.
The Brother Menj, there's this channel. I don't know if you know. I'm
Yeah.
sure you know it. Very
I
popular.
may or may not know it. Yeah.
It's basically it's lessons. It's those lessons about tajweed and the pronunciation
All right.
of the
I
Quran.
think you're talking about Arabic. I think you're talking about Arabic 101 or something like this. When it
Yeah,
talks
might
about
be.
the running. Yeah. I think I've seen this channel before. Yeah.
It's very. I'm
Yeah.
looking it up. 101.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah,
Okay. While you're
exactly.
looking it up, I think it's Arabic
Go on,
101
go on.
or Islam 101.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Sorry.
Arabic 101. You're right.
Yeah, Arabic 101. Yeah, mashallah. Yes. Yeah, I know of this channel. Yes. I actually learned a lot. There's this, I think there's this one episode where it shows, I don't exactly remember the video, but it was very enlightening. I didn't know about it before I watched it. And then I was like, wow, it's so amazing. It actually, I think it was this video about why the Arabic of the Quran can only be in Fusha and not in Amiyah. Because if you try to say the Arabic, you say the verses, the ayah of the Quran in Amiyah, it's going to sound super weird. Something like this.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
the thing I've discovered in this channel is that there's a video
Yeah.
where he
Yeah.
basically made a program, like a program system to basically from learning how to read to understand
Okay.
to tajweed and to understand, and it's
Yeah.
a whole process. And he already
Yeah.
also made the paperwork, and I've looked through it, the step by steps, and it looks quite impressive. And of how what route he takes to
Yeah.
to tell you like to what level you, because I think if you follow, for example, that program, that within a year that you might be
Yeah.
65% understanding the
Mashallah.
vocabulary of the Quran.
Yeah. Mashallah. I should really take that up. Yeah, I should really take that up. But yeah, I think I should take it up in addition to my current Arabic classes from my mu'alim, right? So my mu'alim is a Syrian, okay, but he has been teaching Fusha Arabic for the past 3 or 4 years, okay. So yeah, I find his lessons to be quite good. Okay, it's just that it's actually mostly me because I did not practice what he taught me way for the past, especially during COVID. I think I took things for granted during COVID, so I didn't quite grasp the grammar because I didn't practice it. Okay, because it's like okay, let me pull up the notes, right? So the Arabic notes that I have. Wait, let me see now. Let me see. Hang on. Okay. I'm not trying to impress you with my horrible Arabic, by the way, brother. I just want to show you what I've already learned.
Please,
Okay, hang on.
please.
I know it's going to sound horrible, but yeah, it's basically I'm just going to read out the tenses. Okay, so it's nothing much. Yeah, and my grand vocabulary so far is only of a total of 2. I only know Jalasa and Darosa. Okay, so let me see, where's his name is Moshed, by the way. Okay, okay, here you go. Okay, yes, Mufrad. Okay, so Ana Jalastu. Okay, that's the first person, right? And then we have the double plural, Nahnu Jalasna, right? And then we have the Jama, which is Nahnu Jalasna. Okay. And then second person, Anta Jalasata. Anti Jalasti. Antuma Jalastuma. Antum Jalastuma. Is it correct? Jalastuma?
Yeah, that's
Is
correct.
it right?
If it's the real
Okay.
standard, like standard, but that's not
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
used
it's
in the spoken.
obviously,
Yeah,
yes, obviously this is all Fusa. I'm learning Fusa anyway. So yeah. So and then Antum Jalastum. And then Antuna Jalastunna. Yeah, okay. And then the third person. Okay, Hua Jalasa. Hia Jalasat. Huma Jalasa. Huma Jalasta. And then we have whom Jalasu. Sorry, is it Jalasu, right? Jalasu. And then we have Huna Jalasna. Oh my god. Okay. See, I think the problem right now is me trying to remember which is you, I, and you in 2 forms, which is basically female and male. And then you in 2 forms as well for double plural. And then you they in 2 forms as well for female and male. So I think this is a bit confusing for me. See, I think this may be the issue for me. In addition to the tools, obviously, to the past and present tools, present tense and past tense tools in Arabic.
you shouldn't hesitate to to
Yeah.
make any
Yeah.
mistakes,
Yeah.
because that's the only
Yeah.
way you'll ever learn anything, honestly. But I can hear the
Yes, I
the motivation, mashallah.
Inshallah, I hope so. I think I've been like I said, I've been a bit lax for the past 2 years. I think it's my fault mostly, but I'm trying to back up now because I realize, you can't just simply, take Arabic lessons half-heartedly and hope that suddenly you have a grand understanding of Arabic in just a few months. Okay, with because attitude also plays a role as well as practice. Okay, admittably, I have not been practicing my Arabic for the past 2 years, even though I've been taking it for the past 2 years. And plus, I've only resumed my lessons in Arabic after 3 months of a hiatus. So that makes it worse because in these the last 3 and 4 months, I did not touch Arabic at all. So it's basically me starting from scratch again. So, but at the very least, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to change this, right? Hopefully, this will change this, right? Okay.
Mashallah.
Okay. Before
That's what's needed.
yes, mashallah. All right.
I was
So yeah. Anyway,
I
before
was
I continue,
yeah. Go on,
yeah. Go
brother
ahead.
Paul.
Sorry.
Go on.
Yeah, I want to read the comments on the comments here because Brother Mehdi is here, and I think he
Brother Mehdi, come up
he actually
instead of writing books. Yalla.
Southern Hemisphere versus North Hemisphere. It's talking about the Earth, right? Okay, so I think Brother Ilyas Al-Maudi made a joke. The Earth is triangular. The Earth is triangular, like the Trinity. It's a miracle. I think he was trying to make a joke. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, that's funny. And then Oh, Brother Mehdi. Okay, there's no compulsion in religion. Alhamdulillah. Great. We don't have Brother MENJ in charge to give fatwas. Why you didn't like my fatwa? Making it obligatory for everyone to do da'wah and to be involved in apologetics. Come on. How is that a bad
I,
thing?
I think he would agree. I think he would agree with that.
Oh my, okay. I think yeah, he was commenting about Wesley just now. Wesley's off his medication. Yeah, I think he definitely has something. There's definitely something wrong with Wesley. All right. So this by the way, this is not the first time that he has come on. Okay, onto this live stream. This is probably the second. Just now when I invited him, that was the second time. Okay. All right. So yes. Jalasa session. No, jalasa means to sit, right? To sit. Yeah.
But
Jalasa means
it
to
comes,
sit. Study.
but
Yes.
it doesn't only mean that. It comes from the jim
Oh,
lam si, comes from the root word, and
okay.
so it is. It can mean sitting, and like you said, it could mean jalis, jalsa, like a collective, like a reunion, like
Oh, really? Oh my God.
yeah.
Okay.
Because
I thought I only saw one meaning, sit. Oh my God. Okay. I guess
well,
my
I think
Arabic really
it's
needs
more.
some work.
I think it's the most important to know to sit
Yeah.
than to know how to say collective.
Oh, all right. Oh, brother, this is Brother Wesam. It's not Ilyas. Oh, it's Brother Wesam. Oh, yeah. I just remembered. That's your son's name. Oh my God, I keep getting confused, Aki. I'm sorry, Brother Wesam.
Oh, brother Wissam, come up.
Brother
We
Wesam,
need
yes,
some.
our brother with the very high knowledge in Bible. I mean, this is Brother Wesam. You really need to have your own channel, Aki, because your knowledge in Christian history, early Christian history, and biblical textual criticism, mashallah, that's just amazing. You really need to have your channel. Okay, you really need to have your own channel. Okay, yes, really, honestly, sincerely, I'm begging you to have your own channel. Okay, actually, I'm listening to one of your. I think Brother Wesam, by the way, Brother Wesam, I'm listening to one of your lectures. I think on this channel where you talked about Bart Ehrman's response to you with regards to whether it is possible for Jesus to be crucified or otherwise. I think you mentioned this in your live stream yesterday, and I hopped onto that person's channel, that brother's channel, and then I saw the lecture, and I'm listening to it now. Okay, and yeah, I could see that I could see that Ehrman is actually waffling. Okay, I mean Ehrman saying that hallucinations and visions are more possible than Jesus being saved. Or being wrong, or the wrong person being arrested instead of Jesus. I think that's really ridiculous. Okay. So by the way, Brother Servant of Allah, in case you didn't know, just to fill you in, Brother Wesam asked on Bart Ehrman's blog, okay, on whether is it more plausible to believe that or to accept the idea that Jesus might have been saved, okay, instead of going for the Christian idea that uh, that that the disciples saw Jesus being raised from saw him at the tomb or something like this. So what Ehrman said was that he was that the hallucinations and visions are much more plausible than someone being saved at the cross, which is okay. I think by the way, Sam is at the backstage, so I'm going to bring him on, right? So maybe by the way,
Yeah,
Sam
bring
can
him
fill
up.
us
Bring
in.
him up, inshallah.
Right? Yes. Assalamualaikum, Brother Wesam. Sorry for the mistaken identity. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum
I'm not
wa
Ehrman.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey, it
I'm not
happened to
Ehrman,
Jesus. It's
so
okay. It can happen to me. Walaikum salam.
yes.
Still
yes.
hiding behind your son's channel.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Brother Wesam. Perhaps maybe you would like to explain to the brother and to me as well your conversation with Ehrman with regards to the crucifixion of Jesus. I think you mentioned several texts which seem to indicate that they don't believe that Jesus was crucified, right?
Yep. What's funny is I actually have.
or no mention. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Is there a delay with the audio on my end? Because I can hear myself.
No. There's no delay. I kind of accidentally cut you off. Sorry, just go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, because when I speak, I can kind of like hear my echo, but it's gone now. Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
No, there's no echo.
First of all, assalamu alaikum. How you doing, servant? I don't know what your real name is. Hayakallah. It's good to hear from you again.
Dawood.
What is it?
Dawood.
Dawood. Hayakallah. Ni'mal abdu innahu awwab. Yeah. So my conversation with Bart Ehrman was on his blog, and it was on an article.
Yeah.
Say it again, Tayyip.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw the conversation. But perhaps you could explain to Brother Dawood what actually transpired. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's just I don't know what prompted it, but Bart Ehrman decided to post an article, and it was called "Did They Crucify the Wrong Guy?" And he was speaking about the Coptic Apocalypse of Peter, I think, or it might have been the Basilean traditions. I'm not sure what he was referencing, but he did mention that there was this, movement in the early period of Christianity where people believed that it wasn't Jesus that was crucified, rather it was somebody else. And so we had a little back and forth. I asked him, I'm like, wouldn't it be more plausible, because he takes the position that the supposed what are they called, the passion predictions, you probably know what these are. The passion predictions are a couple of places in the Synoptic Gospels where Jesus says, now the Son of Man must go and be punished and be handed over to the Jews, and they will flog him and crucify him, yada yada, basically predicting his death. And he's of the position that these are interpolations, that these are like later additions. They're not historical. They never happened, because of the disciples' like complete ignorance of that fact afterwards, when they're all just like kind of astounded that he was dead, and then they couldn't believe when he was alive, because if he was preaching to them all this time about the crucifixion and the resurrection, then they wouldn't be. It's not historically plausible. It's not coherent. So I'm like, isn't it more plausible, since he's a naturalist anyway, a good way to blend those different theories together, isn't it more plausible that they crucified the wrong guy and the disciples saw him alive afterwards, and that's why they were shocked, that's why they were amazed, because they thought he died and he was never predicting these in the beginning? And his response is I don't know of any case of mistaken identity in antiquity. So I believe that the disciples all had mass hallucinations, and they envisioned Jesus to be alive the next day. That was after I brought up all of these texts. Yeah, I brought up like all the different texts, and there's more. I mean, the ironic part is I have his book. He has a book called Jesus Outside the Gospel, with him and Latko Plete, another erudite scholar of early Christianity. Amazing book. It goes into the manuscript history, gives the original text alongside the English translation, everything. And in that text, he mentions 5, 6, 7 different texts, all from the 2nd century, some of them from the 1st century, in which Jesus either escapes death, somebody else is crucified, or docetic generally says that they didn't crucify him, or they don't. It doesn't mention the crucifixion at all, where it should mention the crucifixion. It's like, well, a book of creeds like the Didache, or something as vast as the Gospel of Thomas, 114 sayings. Like, you have all of these traditions, and then you have the redactions within the Gospels themselves, and you're choosing to say that they had a singular hallucination experience over maybe they might have crucified the wrong guy. And he says, well, yeah, I don't know of any cases of mistaken identity. And I told him, sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear that. That's my navigation. But yeah, and I told him, like,
you see, the thing is, of course, he wouldn't know of any mistaken identity, because it was mistaken identity, and obviously the Romans wouldn't know, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they will not. They will not say, "Hey, we crucified the wrong guy." They kept up the narrative.
Exactly. Okay. The reason why we know that Jesus, it's possible that Jesus could have been saved, of course, because the Quran tells us so. You see, I mean, I don't know, and also, of course, we have those evidence and from extra Quranic evidence as well. But because as you know, the Gospels themselves are totally written by unknown authors, so That's also another issue, right?
Yeah, and he's the one that
Yeah.
popularized this. He's the one that said, nobody knows who wrote these gospels. They come late. We don't even have an
Exactly.
original text. But yet all of the sources that speak about
Exactly.
Jesus' death come from those very documents. And so he attacks them, he lambasts them, he criticizes them. But then when it comes to these traditions,
Okay.
he accepts them as fact.
Okay.
It's really
Right.
inconsistent.
Okay. I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share with you something that I had with Dr. Dale Martin in my conversation with him with regards to the crucifixion of Jesus. Dr. Dale Martin, of course, he's a believing Christian. So he says that on one hand, as a believing Christian, he believes that Jesus was saved and blah blah. Sorry, not saved. I mean, he was resurrected and blah blah blah. On the other hand, as a historian, he told me this is his exact words. Okay, he told me this. He said that I believe that Jesus died, was crucified, but his body was probably in some mass grave. He told me this. As a believing Christian, he does believe that Jesus was resurrected, but for some reason he has this I don't know, cognitive dissonance, I guess. When he wears his historian's hat, he says that Jesus was buried in some mass grave and he never was resurrected. I'm like, what?
I respect that. I respect that, really. Well, if he's able to separate between like the total implausibility of the gospel narratives and his job as a historian, that's excellent. Because a lot of this, critical scholars, this is basically a consensus that crucified Jews, especially those who had the opportunity of causing a rebellion, they were not put in these, they were not put in separate tombs in order to attract veneration and maybe inspire martyrdom. And no, they were buried and made an example of. And so all of these, all of the narratives leading up to the crucifixion, it's this supposed tradition of Pontius Pilate to let go a prisoner at the Passover every year. No evidence for that. The fact that Pontius Pilate would even consider releasing a insurrectionist like Jesus Barabbas back into the crowds and crucify an innocent man because the Jews were forcing him to also makes no sense. The fact that there is another Jesus at the trial.
So on that point, brother, what would you say about the story of Jesus's body? Okay, I mean, let's put on the Christian hat, right? Since they believe that he was crucified, the body of Jesus being given to this guy Joseph of Arimathea and put into a tomb. Do you think that story has any validity, considering what we have just mentioned just now, that the Romans would want to put criminals who were crucified at the cross into mass graves because they wouldn't want any veneration of these rebels, etc. Would that story of the body of Jesus being given to Joseph of Arimathea be historical even?
So I've not studied the historicity of Joseph of Arimathea to an extent, but from what I do know, based on Dennis MacDonald's work, is that this this incident of Joseph of Arimathea going to Pontius Pilate and beseeching him for the body of Jesus. This is almost an exact replica of what happens to between Achilles and Hector. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Yeah. And so when after Achilles, Achilles slaughters Hector.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, go ahead. What you were saying about Achilles and Hector? Yeah.
Yeah. So in one of these Greco-Roman compositions, Achilles he kills Hector, and he drags his body. He drags his body around the city for 3 days and 3 nights. Just like Jesus. And then his father goes to the king and asks him to release his body, so that he will get a proper burial. This seems like
I recall this incident from the film. So I guess the film from the film, the Troy film,
from
the
Troy,
one involving Brett and I like that film, man, a lot.
One of the best films ever. So Nobody should watch it though.
Yes, it's epic. It's totally epic. Yeah. Definitely everyone should watch that. Troy. The one.
No, I'm saying you shouldn't watch it. There's a lot of. I watched that in Jahiliyyah, so there's a lot of nudity in it. If you can get a clean version
for educational. Sorry, for educational purposes, right? We don't
for educational purposes, you can just read Virgil and all these different things. Just read the book.
Yeah, I guess I'm a bit.
You don't need to see Brad Pitt in all his glory.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Because but you know, I just love Hollywood, so it's just me, right? So
I got you. No problem.
so anyway,
So
anyway,
yeah,
go ahead.
and
Anyway,
also the
continue. Go
last
ahead.
name, the last name or the designation of Arimathea doesn't exist. There's no precedent for that. Like
Oh, it doesn't.
no one was ever called. Yeah, no one prior to the Gospels was ever called of Arimathea. There's no town called Arimathea. Dennis MacDonald says that this is
Oh,
a composite word that's derived from arche, which means the prime or the chief,
mm,
and mathetas, which means
mm.
disciple. So it means the true disciple. Arimathea means the true disciple.
So
There's a lot of play
that
on
means
words in the
it means.
Gospel.
Oh, I see. So either it could be, even if the story is true, it could be someone who was a disciple of Jesus, or it could be totally made up.
Yeah, it could be just a literary device used by whoever wrote the Gospel
Mm,
in order to show. Because if you pay
mm.
close attention, I mean, I never noticed this before, but according
Ah,
to Dennis MacDonald, all of Jesus' family
yeah.
members are portrayed in the Gospel of Mark as traitors. So you have his father Joseph never making another
I didn't
scene,
know.
either in his trial or anywhere else. And so you have Joseph of
Oh,
Arimathea, not Joseph his father, who is asking for his body.
yeah.
You have
Ah,
Simon Peter, who betrays him and who's called Satan in the Gospel according to Mark, who bears his cross? Simon of Cyrene. You have
ah,
Mary, his mother, who basically is called so many different bad things in the Gospels, but who is there
yeah.
to accompany him at the cross, and
Mary
to see
Magdalene.
him when he wakes up. Mary Magdalene, right? So
Yes.
these are like literary ploys. James and John, the
Yeah.
sons of Zebedee, they get crucified
Oh,
between them. They get one on his right, one on his left. So it was like a literary ploy
oh,
from their request.
I thought those two thieves were unnamed.
Yeah, they're unnamed, but it seems to be James and John because the motif of drinking from the cup it means martyrdom, and so at the end of the Gospel of Mark,
Oh,
you have both of them mocking him, and only Matthew and Luke redacting it, saying no. One of them, James. This is I think is in Matthew. James. No, it's actually in Luke. One of them, either James or John, doesn't mock him.
okay.
But in Mark, both of
Oh,
them mock him, and in Mark, the actual request made by Boanerges, the sons of thunder, which is also derived from the sons of Zeus, and the figures of the Diascuri, who are Castor and
mm,
Pollux. They're portrayed
mm.
in Roman iconography to the right and to the left of Zeus, and they're called the sons of thunder. So this is probably where that derives from anyway. But in the Gospel of Mark, they're
Oh,
very rude. They come to Jesus and they rudely ask him. They say, Jesus, we want you to do something for us. And he says, what is it? He says, I want to sit in your right hand and let him sit on your left hand in the kingdom of heaven. And then Jesus asked them, will you, and there's some textual variants there about whether he actually said, you will surely drink from my cup. No, or you will surely
oh,
be baptized with the water that I'm baptized with. So he asked them,
oh.
are you able to drink from the cup that I drink? Meaning, will you be crucified and follow me and die as martyrs? And they said,
Mm.
yes. And he said, will you be baptized with the same water that I'm baptized with? And they said, yes. And then he says, for that judgment is not for me to make, but for my Father alone. So this is also kind of like a refutation of people who say that Jesus was given all authority. He didn't have authority to designate these two individuals with him on the day of judgment.
Mm.
But those two, they ask him in such a rude way that Matthew actually redacts it. He makes the mother of the sons of Zebedee go up to him and kneel down before him and say, "Oh, Master, let my children sit on your right hand and sit on your left hand." Completely different story. But Mark, which is the
Mm.
earliest one, has them being rude to Jesus, and Jesus declining their saying where they will be placed on the day of resurrection. And then you have two thieves
Mm.
crucified with him on during his crucifixion. So Mark is probably portraying those two thieves as James and John, the sons of Zebedee.
Oh. Honestly, I never saw it that way. This is the first time me listening to this.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
According to, I think church tradition, Catholic church tradition, they actually name the thieves, but it's different names, right? With different names, yeah.
I'm not sure. I've never come across the names of those two in the early church.
Wait. Google the
brothers,
thieves.
mashallah,
Yeah.
A lot of knowledge, mashallah. I do have a question. Like, wasn't there,
Yeah, go ahead.
if we talk about, we go back to the first subject Brother Wissam mentioned, wasn't there a very known rebel at the time that was also named Jesus?
Yes, Jesus Barabbas.
Barabbas. And what does Barabbas mean?
Barabbas is a patronymic in Aramaic, which means son of the father. If you look at it in Aramaic, so
Yeah.
Bar Abash, which means son of the father, or if it's also a Hebrew word, which means the pious teacher. So Bar means pious in Hebrew, and like Rabbah, which means teacher. So it could be Bar Rabbah, which means pious teacher. So if you look at it in Hebrew, which is probably was Aramaic, but that's an opinion out there. It means pious teacher. If you're looking at it in Aramaic, it means son of the father. Both things
So
Jesus was
so
called
it
during his lifetime. So
yeah, subhanallah, there's, that this is basically not looked at when it is basically the name is Jesus, his name, and the meaning of his last name. One of them is son of God,
no, son of the
son of the
father.
Father, son of the
Yeah.
Father. Yeah, son of the Father.
Yep. Very
So
interesting.
so
And what's interesting is early
yeah,
scribes, they removed his name from the manuscripts. So if you're reading like the Alexandrian line, it'll only say the rebel was Barabbas. It won't say his actual first name. But then you have the Western text and you have Origin and the manuscripts around Origin that say no, his name was Jesus. And through internal criteria, many scholars, including Daniel Wallace, surprisingly, he was a fundamentalist, fundamentalist evangelical, Bruce Metzger, Bart Ehrman as well. They say that the original reading, or the one that has the best chance of being original, is Jesus Barabbas. So scribes tried to change this to kind of embellish and not make Jesus have the same name as this criminal.
yeah, and I think that's not their only problem uh, in that whole situation. He's, if I understood correctly, you said that the the person about on the blog that he was saying something about that they mass hallucinated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he would go more to make that statement about the real disciples, but when it comes to the claim of a self-appointed apostle, Paul, who had this vision that he doesn't, maybe does he see that as hallucination or as a fact?
I think he does. Yeah. Although I'm not sure if he thinks so. Bart Ehrman is not. He's not the most liberal out there. So he has a lot of conservative views. I'm not sure what his views are on the Book of Acts. So, if he were to take like the standard German position, it's that Paul never even made the claim that he saw Jesus, the risen Jesus. He never did. That's only in the Book of Acts. That the
So
anonymous author.
I can tell you what Dr. Dale Martin's view of X is, by the way, since I've talked to him. So basically, he believes that X, the story of X, especially with regards to Paul, they are all ahistorical. Okay? Because if you compare the narration of Paul in Acts and you compare that with the epistles, you will find a lot of many differences. Okay, and Acts was written much later than epistles. So how is it possible for those details to be not mentioned by Paul? Okay, like for example, by Acts. Okay, it's like for example, Paul said, we know that Paul wrote the epistles, right? If you read the book of Acts, nothing is mentioned about the epistles. Nothing. There's no mention of Paul ever writing epistles. See, so that's one example. And then according to Dr. Martin, okay, I think I might need to
Sorry,
share with
Brother
you my
Mensch, do you mean like there's no letters?
yeah, the
The
letters of
letters of
Paul.
Paul?
Yeah, it's not mentioned. Yeah, the letters of Paul. We know that Paul wrote his letters, right, and they were written earlier than Acts. You see, But the author
Yeah.
of Acts didn't seem to know that Paul wrote these letters. You see?
And how sure are we that those letters were written by Paul?
It's definitely written. I mean, that I think, by the way, some can confirm that, right? Yeah.
Well, I can't confirm. I can give my opinion, but nobody really knows, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not with 100% surety. But yeah, so I don't, like I said,
yeah.
تفضل حبيبي.
So, go ahead. Sorry, brother. Go ahead.
No, don't worry. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
No, go ahead. No, yeah,
No.
I just wanted to say that it's just a consensus by scholars, Christian scholars, textual scholars, that the letters were written by Paul, but out of the 12, or was it 14? I don't remember, by the way. Some only 7 are authentically authored by Paul.
Yeah. So even Hebrews, basically, even conservatives don't think Paul wrote it. The early church didn't think Paul wrote it or nothing. There are various attributions. So but of the 13, so they omit. Well, most critical scholars, they say the pastorals are not Pauline. So 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus. Then you have Ephesians, Colossians, and 2nd Thessalonians. And then the rest they say might be Pauline.
So you say,
Yes.
so let's for example, let's take them as for example that Paul wrote them, right? For example,
Right.
You said then, Brother Wissam, you said that it doesn't mention that he had a vision.
Yep, he never. There's 2 places in the Pauline corpus, what may be considered genuine Pauline corpus. So in Corinthians and in Galatians, about his experiences with Jesus. There's no mention of a road to Damascus or seeing a light or being blinded. Yeah, nothing like
So
that.
that's one of the differences. That's one of the differences which Dr. Martin told me about. Yeah.
I just don't.
And
I
the
just
story,
don't understand.
the story in Acts is again almost a carbon copy of the Bacchae by Euripides. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's a story about Dionysius. And Dionysius is this demigod who was killed and resurrected in the thigh of Zeus. And then
This is definitely from Dr. McDonald, right? This is from Dr. McDonald, right? I haven't read his work, but I know that this has to be from Dr. McDonald.
Yeah, no, this one is like almost identical. You know, there are a lot of sometimes people go overboard with the mimetism and the parallels, and they try to stretch things, and it kind of dilutes the strength of their argument. But this one is very on point. So you have the persecutor of Dionysius. The persecutor of Dionysius, his name is Pantheus, and Dionysius is a demigod who was killed and resurrected. And on the road to persecuting this Dionysius and the Bacchae by Euripides, Dionysius appears in a vision to Pantheus, and he says, "Why do you persecute me? Do you find it hard to kick against the goads?" The exact words that he used for Paul.
No.
So you have the context, you have the context, the characters, and the actual language, all derived from Euripides. And so the book of Acts is well known, if you look at the We Star Institute, that it was an attempt to kind of rehabilitate Paul in the eyes of 2nd century Jewish followers. And so, but while trying to do that, they utilize various texts. So they use Josephus so much, the authors of the book of Acts, and they use Greco-Roman poetry, they use Virgil, they use the Odyssey, they use the Iliad, all these things. And but Paul, those 2 places in Corinthians and Galatians, that unfortunately also it's the subject of a textual variant. So in Galatians he says, "But God was pleased to reveal his son to me," just like a general revelation. But in some manuscripts, very early manuscripts, it says, "God was pleased to reveal his son in me." The Greek word ein, epsilon nun. So depending on which manuscript you read, it's either an external revelation or an internal epiphany. Like he just realized he just saw Jesus within him. It doesn't mention that he saw him like as a vision or as like a projection or a spirit or nothing. And in the second place, he says, "I know a person who was taken to the 3rd heaven." So, probably speaking about his experience, but he says that he was actually taken by Jesus and taken up to the 3rd heaven and then brought back down. So completely different from what you see in the book of Acts. So that most likely never even occurred to him or to the disciples that he actually saw Jesus, in person.
I'm kind of completely like lost, and because so if I'm correct, they have letters of Paul that they're not 100% sure. There's consensus where it's not written that he had that vision, right?
Yep.
From there, it grow basically it becomes the the how do you say that? The foundation. Yeah, the
Uh,
foundation of what they then going to build up on further, and it doesn't make any sense because, like a question I asked on a previous stream once, um, like there's limited requirements needed for if someone has a claim, right? There's minimum requirements, and I said, is there somewhere written in any scripture by by Paul or by anyone that he could describe what he saw, right? Because if he would have had this description, then the apostles later on could have at least seen, okay, is this Jesus or not? Uh, do you get the
Yeah, no, exactly. It goes back to kind of like something similar to when we ask Christians, does the New Testament even make the claim that it's the Word of God? It never makes the claim. So in the same way, Paul never even makes a claim that he saw Jesus. It never even gets that far, so we can actually dissect it. It's just a myth.
oh
It's
my
just a myth that was
gosh.
perpetrated by the author of Acts, and people ran with it and tried to harmonize it. But in reality, Paul doesn't even care whether you think he saw Jesus or not. If you read Galatians, he just doesn't care. He says, "I'm an apostle from God, not from man. I don't really care what you say. What I am, what I am to them means nothing to me. You know, these so-called pillars, these super apostles, whatever they are. You know, he's berating them, calling them hypocrites." And then he actually he swears by God. He says, "I swear by God, I'm not lying. When I never went to Jerusalem." He said, "I never went to Jerusalem at first," meaning, why would I go and verify whatever if what I received was true or not? He said, "I went to Damascus, then I went to Arabia for a couple of years, then I went and stayed with Peter for, I think he mentioned like 15 days, 5 or 15 days or something like that. That's all." And he gloats about this, saying, I never needed to." They're hypocrites. They're teaching against the truth of the gospel. But modern day Christians, they think that the New Testament came down in one piece and they all have the same message. And so they try to, harmonize things that can't be harmonized. There are no like kind of ethereal epistles. There are no residual epistles of Peter or Mark or John or any of the disciples or Barnabas. Barnabas was supposedly Paul's right hand man. Nobody left epistles saying, "Hey, follow Paul," or it's he would eventually be responsible for over half of the New Testament. The Epistle of James doesn't mention him. The Epistle of Jude doesn't mention him. He's basically like a lot of our Muslim apologists say. He is a self-proclaimed apostle, and he gloats about this. He doesn't even care whether you think he had communion with the apostles or not. He has no
but
problem mentioning that he disagreed with them or that he split with them. And the book of
it's
Acts tries
Yep.
to soften this. In the book of Acts, I'm sorry, this is the last thing I'll say.
go on.
In Acts chapter 15, I believe, it says that Paul got into an argument with John Mark, whoever it is, because Mark deserted him and Barnabas while they were on a missionary trip, and so Paul got mad and he split ways with him and Barnabas because Barnabas took Mark's side in the whole thing. He just went with him and he sailed with, I think, with Timothy or Silas somewhere else. But in Galatians, when you
Yeah.
read Paul's actual words, about why he split with Barnabas, he doesn't mention that he took Mark's side and that he left us. He actually is in cahoots with Mark. He loves Mark. He says, "Tell Mark to bring me my scrolls." and nobody is with me except Mark and Luke. And then with Barnabas, he says that Barnabas was a hypocrite, that he followed Peter in teaching against the truth of the gospel by not allowing themselves to sit with the Gentiles, basically maintaining Jewish Pharisaic interactions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a completely different story.
Yeah, wait.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a wave of new information, because so I don't even know where to begin. So where is the so basically he was speaking bad about the original apostles, correct?
Yep. Especially
But
James. He just refers to James as the circumcision group. He calls them the circumcision group. He says those who continue to be in circumcision, Christ has done nothing for you. He says Christ profits you not. Then he says if you continue in circumcision, I wish that you would just, my son is here, so I can't be really explicit, but he says I wish that you. I am here. Yeah, I know. He says I wish you would just chop it all off. He says if you're gonna circumcise yourself, just go ahead and chop it all off.
Is it because oh no, okay, never mind. I will not go into that. So because then so you confirmed but where was where is it then? Why do they believe, or where is it written in scripture that that when he was teaching the Gentiles not to follow the law, and he then was confronted by the apostles, that he had to take the Nicene Creed,
the Nazarite vow. Oh no, definitely didn't have to take the Nicene Creed.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's very early in the morning.
Imagine Paul having to take the Nicene Creed.
Okay, and on that note, I would like to sorry, brother. I just would like to introduce Brother Etesham Gulam to the show. So he has this channel, Answering Christians 1. And by the way, his buddies with.
Assalamu alaikum. Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, I saw you at the comic book shop. You remember me, Ehtesham?
Oh, that was you?
That was me, brother. Yeah.
Okay.
Looking for my Spawn comic.
Yeah, I remember. I think I remember that.
You Sam?
Yeah, I think I remember that.
We crossed paths one time, yeah.
Oh, all right. Interesting. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've been watching his stuff.
Actually, I can hear my relatives at the hallway. I actually need to leave, but I don't want to interrupt this, so I'll just let this run for about 15 minutes before I call it off. All right. So just you guys, say anything you want to say, Brother Etesham. Right.
Oh yeah, what are you guys talking about?
Oh, he was talking. Brother Etesham was talking about the Acts about Paul. Yeah, maybe you want to say something about that. I don't know, or you want to talk about something else? Up to you.
About what? What is it?
Well, I was asking questions about Paul, because of how I thought that I've read it. Apparently, Brother Wissam comes up with a completely different factual, hidden story about it.
It's not really hidden. It's right there. It's just the stuff that you've heard is kind of manufactured. That's all.
Exactly. So basically,
hey, how do you guys get your like logo thing?
You switch off the camera.
Yeah. I'm trying to. How do you get your logo? I want my logo on there. How do you do that?
You need to switch your camera, and then you need to edit your name and your avatar in StreamYard. I'm not sure whether it's possible for you, because I can't seem to see your settings here. I mean, I think that can only be done from your end. So yeah,
I think just on your StreamYard that you're looking at right now, the right top where you see that you're in the show, if you click on your name, you can click and change your avatar, upload it from your gallery, and then set it as name.
Edit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. do this.
You switch on your camera, by the way, Brother Tasham?
Yeah, I'm trying to get only my logo on there. That's what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Because I don't like nobody else is using video, so I don't want to use video. I'm trying to.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to
the only reason why I'm not using. Yeah, I mean, usually I will use videos for this, but for a video for this, but right now I am not doing that because I'm not really decently dressed. Okay, so use your imagination, guys.
Astaghfirullah.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
Maybe don't use your imagination. No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually wearing a t-shirt and short pants, but I just don't feel comfortable showing myself on screen in this. Okay.
Show us a little nipple. Show us a little nipple. MENJ.
Astaghfirullah. No, spare us.
No, I have a shirt on. Come on, I have a shirt on, right?
Show us a little nipple.
Just that why would you want to look at my man boobs anyway?
Come on, let's see that Malaysian nipple. Let's go.
No, thank you. All right. So oh yeah, speaking of which, I think by the way, you asked this question. I wanted to answer this. You asked this question about making hijrah, right? I'm trying to decide between Malaysia and Egypt for hijrah. Did you say this? By the way, Sam, are you there? Hello? I think he went off. Yeah. But in any case, I would definitely suggest that you come to Malaysia. Why would you not want to come to Malaysia? Right? Oh, okay. By the way, someone needs to step out. Okay, understood. No worries. Yeah. So, Brother Tasha, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So maybe you want to say something while trying to edit your picture, perhaps. Otherwise, it's going to be a very silent meeting.
I'm trying to get my logo up, but I don't see how. All right, whatever. I'll just go without it. Whatever. Yeah. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah. Well, Paul of Tarsus. So maybe you have some thoughts on that. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul was the inventor of the resurrection and crucifixion of Jesus. Believe it or not, the disciples had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
That's
definitely,
what I believe.
Definitely.
If you read Galatians chapter 1, verse, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, if you read Galatians chapter 1, verses 11 to 12, hang on, let me get that verse right now. Oops. I'll just get that verse right now. It says Galatians.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul says in Galatians chapter 1, verses 11 to 12, I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that the gospel I preach is not of human origin. I did not receive it from any man, nor was I taught it. Rather, I received it by revelation of Jesus Christ. Now, notice what Paul says.
Yeah.
The gospel I preach is not of human origin. That means it didn't come from the disciples. It came by a revelation of Jesus Christ. That means a vision of Jesus Christ, so-called vision of Jesus Christ. So I think Paul was the inventor of the death and resurrection of Jesus.
Yep. Or at the very least, pointed the way to it. Like, for example, if you read Romans 10, chapter 10, verse 9, right? Yeah. Can you read that out? Romans chapter 10, verse 9.
Romans chapter 10, verse 9. Romans chapter 10, verse 9 says, if you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved.
Yep, exactly. So this is basically the gospel of Paul, isn't it? Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, if you get what I mean. Yeah, so that's the gospel of Paul, Romans 10, chapter 10, verse 9.
Yeah, doesn't he say somewhere else my gospel? He doesn't say like the disciples' gospel. He's like my gospel.
Yeah, he did. I think I don't remember the verse.
Yeah, he says it a couple of times. I think 3 times in his epistles he says Evangelion, my gospel.
There you go. Yes. Yes, that's right.
Oh,
That's
okay. Romans chapter 16, verse 25. Now to him that is the power to establish you according to my gospel, according to the grace of God, which is given to me, a wise master builder, I have laid out the foundation and built. Oh, wait. Yeah, 2
my
Timothy
gospel.
chapter 2, verse 8, according to my gospel. Remember, Jesus Christ, the seed of David,
Gospel.
was raised from the dead according to my gospel. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 8.
Yep. There you go. There you go. Yeah. So
Isn't
you
it kind of
wonder whether the
strange?
Christians. Yeah. I think for us who have read the New Testament and the epistles deeply, we already know this. Okay. So that the Christians don't really follow Jesus, that they actually follow the gospel of Paul, not the gospel of Jesus. You see. So whatever that you see now in the gospels, even the gospels now, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, okay, those were written later. Those were not written during the time of Jesus. They were not even written 30 years after Jesus. The epistles were written much earlier, and the gospels came much later. I mean, Brother Etesham and Brother Wesam, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong.
No,
So
you're right. Yeah. I'm sorry.
yeah. So my theory is that my personal theory is that the gospels were influenced by the epistles, by the theology of the epistles, and that Pauline thought crept into the gospels. Okay.
Yeah,
So
Paul
uh,
was writing. Paul was writing before the
yeah,
Gospels, and his gospel was the most successful. It went all the way from Rome to Turkey to Egypt. Like his
that's
gospel
right.
spread all over the place. So the gospel
Yeah,
writers definitely got their death and resurrection from Jesus or from Paul,
yeah,
as opposed to disciples.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
definitely right about that.
But on that point, I think the Gospel of John is a bit unique compared to the others, because the Gospel of John, the other three authors, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, didn't even seem to know that the Gospel of John existed. And whoever wrote the Gospel of John did not even know that the synoptics existed. So that is a bit interesting to me, intriguing even. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Brother Wesam
I
can
think
fill
that
in,
there
or
is. Yeah, no, I definitely think whoever wrote the Gospel of John. I mean, a lot of these Gospels were geographically isolated. You have to remember, it's not like they had the internet. They didn't know. It takes a long time to publish books and to actually get them to be disseminated and understood. But what appears to me is that the Johannine community was primarily in Alexandria, in quote unquote Gnostic circles. So it might have had some traditions that were maybe even earlier than some of the Gospels, but it definitely was interacting with the Gospels and traditions in the Gospels. For example, you find clear redactions, like kind of ridiculing the prayer in Gethsemane. So whereas where Jesus says, Father, you are capable of all things, let this hour pass from me, in the Gospel of Mark, or Father, if you are willing, let this cup pass from me, in the Gospel of Matthew. In the Gospel of John, the prayer
yes,
is removed completely. And then he says, my heart is grieved, but what shall I say? Father, remove this cup from me? No, it was for this hour that I came. So he kind of like directly repudiates the gospel narratives. You have him changing the text
oh
of. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah,
no,
and then
I
the
was just wondering. Yeah, okay, Brother Etesham, you can go first. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Gospel of John is probably, you don't see any other statements in the other Gospels. For example, the Gospel of John says, in the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And you see a lot of other like things that you don't find in the other Gospels, like John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. You don't see Jesus going as a willing sacrifice in the other Gospels, Mark, Matthew, and Luke. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus says, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" Meaning that Jesus didn't willingly go on the cross; he was crucified unwillingly. But in the Gospel of John, he goes more willingly. You see this theology, which is very different from what we find in the other Gospels. The Gospel
Yeah,
of John.
they crystallized basically his gospel of John. He crystallized the divinity of Christ. That is
But if you read the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verse 17, I believe it is, Jesus says he has a God. So if Jesus has a God, then he cannot be God. So that's kind
Oh,
of one of the verses that I go to that show that, yeah, the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verse 17, Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I am not ascended to the Father. Go instead to your brothers and tell them I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." So Jesus has a God, according to the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verse 17. Thus, Jesus cannot be God if he has a God.
yeah.
Even when you say the Gospel of John, it's kind of a loaded type of phrase, because the Gospel of John is just a finished product because we have it today after all of the different redactions and additions and revisions. But it's not like a hidden secret. Like even conservative scholars, traditionally, Bible believing scholars like Raymond Brown and F.F. Bruce, they believe that the Gospel of John has underwent 5 or 6 revisions. In the Paraclete sayings, and the conclusion, and the prologue. So when you say the Gospel of John, it's which section of the Gospel of John are you speaking? Yeah, because it has some of the most monotheistic language in the entirety of the Gospels, but then sometimes it has high logos Christology. So it's not even a whole cohesive, one authorial attestation. It's not. It's been revised so many times.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you said, that the crystallization of the end product was not necessarily the original alleged what John wrote, but what basically like what they edited and changed to fit their agenda, and then of course pointed it to being apart from John's gospel. So yeah, I mean, corruption to the extent, I don't know if there is any, like, where is there no corruption? I mean, I would like to know that. Like,
Yeah, there's corruption everywhere. I mean, the brother mentioned, you said in the synoptics, it says, "God, oh God, why have you forsaken me?" That we don't even know if that was the case. I mean, technically, because the manuscripts come late and they're filled with interpolations and various. But in the manuscripts themselves, you have 2 readings of that passage. So it's either, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, "God, oh God, why have you forsaken me?" And then there's another variant of the Gospel according to Mark that says, "God, oh God, why have you reviled me?" Not forsaken me, reviled me. So there's 2 schools of thought between textual critics, and one is that separationists actually changed the text from "why have you forsaken me" to "why have you reviled me." And then there's a school of thought that says, proto-Orthodox Christians changed the text from "why have you reviled me" and changed it to "why have you forsaken me." And so we don't even know what his last words were. The opening of the Gospel of Mark, we have no idea how it opened. Whether it just says this is the beginning of the Gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, or the beginning of the Gospel of Jesus Christ without the Son of God addition. Whether the genealogies and the nativities were original, we don't know, because that Marcion's Evangelion, which is like the earliest gospel, didn't have them. There's a lot of like internal reasons why they don't make sense. It seems to be just Matthew trying to make Jesus into Moses in very explicit ways. The ending of the Gospel of John chapter 21, the majority of textual critics say it's a later edition, even though it's in pretty much all the manuscripts except some Gothic ones, because of church father attestation and because of internal considerations. But the fact that they have to debate this is really crazy. Imagine if they actually had, like a apostolic succession, there wouldn't be no debates. They would just say, "Oh well, look, Peter, he taught the Gospel of Mark this way, and this is the original reading." But they have to do all of these things and investigate the internal criteria and the external criteria and the date of the manuscripts and the character of the manuscripts and the geographical distribution and the genealogical solidarity and all of this stuff. And now they're using computers. They're literally using computers to determine what the original reading is. I don't know if you guys know what the CBGM is, the coherence-based genealogical method. all the next editions of the Greek critical text are going to be basically based on computer decisions on what's original and what's not. So forget being by the hands of men. Now, now that I don't know what the code of computers is now corrupting the text or choosing the text.
I'd be more honestly, I'd trust the computers now more in that way than the people who wrote it.
Yeah, but the code
It'll
and
be more consistent.
the criteria for the CBGM is based on the collective decisions of those editors. So it's kind of like a mix between the two.
I wanted to come back on Brother answering Christians. Because Brother Wissam, you left for a little while, and I don't know if he heard you, but coming to the point of where Brother Wissam, you said that Paul never claimed that he saw Jesus in a vision, nor was on the road on Damascus. And then Brother Answering Christian read a passage where apparently that is the case. Could you repeat, Brother Wissam, what you told me us about that concoction?
Wait, what? What are you guys talking about? What?
He zoned out.
Oh yeah, he's zoned out. Sorry. So, Brother Wissam, if you could just repeat basically the point of
About
Yeah.
the Pauline vision or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So so it's usually said that Paul himself he testified that he saw Jesus on the road to Damascus, when this is not the case. It's only in the book of Acts, which is not by Paul. Even tradition says it was by a disciple of Paul, Luke, the traveling physician or whatever, even though there's no evidence for that either. But in Paul's own writings, he never makes this claim. He just literally says that he was taken up to the third heaven in one passage in Corinthians, and in another, it's the subject of a textual variant, whether it says that God, the Father, saw it fit to reveal His Son to me or in me, depending on which variant you read. And both of them are kind of ambiguous anyway. But the whole road to Damascus thing, on the road to Damascus thing, is a play off of the Bacchae by Euripides and the story of Dionysius. And that's only told in the book of Acts, which is, again, not by Paul. And there's two versions of that, by the way, as well. There's one where Paul sees a light and he doesn't hear anything. And there's one where he gets blinded. And then there's one where he hears something but doesn't see anything.
Yeah, if you read the letters of Paul and read Acts of the Apostles, you can see the contradictions in Acts and Paul. That means the author of Acts was rewriting history. He was trying to make it where the disciples and Paul got along. But if you read 2 Corinthians and Galatians and all that, you can see that that wasn't the case, that Paul was the propagator of the death and resurrection of Jesus, not the disciples. Because like I said in Galatians 1, chapter 11, verse 12, Paul didn't receive the gospel by human origin. He received it by revelation of Jesus Christ. Revelation, the Greek word is apologetics or something like that. That means revelation or vision. It doesn't mean like a flesh and blood encounter. So that's where the death and resurrection of Jesus came from, Paul, not the disciples. So that just tells you what you need to know about the real founder of Christianity, or at least New Testament Christianity.
Right. And it's my personal opinion. I mean, and I'm working on a thesis of this as well. I'm working on a few theses concerning the Gospel of Mark. But one of them is, the general Pauline / Marcionite character of the Gospel of Paul are some of the biggest evidences to the originality of the shorter ending of the Gospel of Mark. So where in the Gospel of Mark, I mean, I don't have to say this, it's generally known that Mark has a very negative attitude towards the disciples. He calls them stupid and dense. He omits all of the praise of the disciples. For example, the Petrine confession, even though he's supposedly a disciple of Peter, but doesn't mention when Jesus actually commends Peter for his recognizing that he's the Messiah, and all of this stuff. But their hearts are hard. They don't recognize him. They don't worship him. Nothing. But in the end of the Gospel of Mark, the true ending, based on the consensus of critical scholars, it says that the women fled from the tomb and didn't say anything to anyone because they were afraid. Now, for me, this is so indicative that the author of the Gospel of Mark was trying to explain why the disciples did not know about the resurrection, why they had no idea that there was a resurrection. And Mark just blamed the women and said that they never told any of the disciples. And so now Paul comes along and says, I saw Jesus. I saw Jesus resurrected. And then the later Bible, New Testament authors, they kind of make various resurrection narratives that all contradict each other to harmonize with Paul's account. Because Paul says that he appeared to James and then to Peter and then to the 12 and yada yada. But in the gospel according to Mark, he ended his gospel by saying that the only witnesses to the resurrection didn't say anything to anyone because they were afraid. And so this is basically Mark trying to explain away why none of the disciples knew about the resurrection. Luke has a different method of trying to explain why the disciples didn't know that he was supposed to rise from the dead and didn't know that he was supposed to die for their sins. He has the road to Emmaus narrative, which is taken from the Odyssey, by the way.
So, Brother Wisdom,
yeah.
just to come in there, so they were not also aware of the crucifixion itself. Because
exactly. Yeah, this is where I was going.
Fled,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, in the Gospel according to Luke, in chapter 24, Jesus is dressed up as a gardener for some reason. Nobody knows why he's dressed up as a gardener. He's in his resurrected, glorified body, and he's still, trying to hide from the Jews. I'm not sure why. So I think the Gospel of Luke is trying to interact with traditions that Jesus actually escaped and that he looked like somebody else. So that he just has that tradition but doesn't really explain it. So at the end of that road to Emmaus narrative, which is again taken from the Odyssey, he tells the disciples what happened here. Those two disciples on the road to Emmaus, and they said, "Are you the only one in Israel?" And I'm quoting verbatim. I mean, not verbatim, but like I'm loosely quoting because I don't have it in front of me. He said, "Are you the only one in Israel who does not know what happened? God raised a mighty prophet among us, Jesus, and we thought he was the one that was going to redeem Israel, but he's dead." So these two people have such an affinity for Jesus and have followed him for so long that they wanted to go and visit him at his grave. The Gospel of Mark says they wanted to go and anoint his body, which is basically a Jewish custom that you do for the dead. They were not anticipating that he was going to be raised from the dead. And they said, "Oh, but now he is dead. We thought he was the Messiah." So he hasn't been telling them that he was supposed to be crucified for their sins, like the Gospel of John says. Because in the very beginning of the Gospel of John, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world." He grants everlasting life or whatever. I will myself rebuild my body or whatever, however John says it. But in the Gospel of Luke, then Jesus supposedly chastises them and tells them that they're not understanding. He has to open their minds mystically, and then they understand. Oh yeah, all of these things have been written about me. That the Son of Man has to die and raised from the dead after 3 days. So the Gospel of Luke is actually trying to explain away why the disciples didn't know that he was supposed to be crucified and why they were not expecting it. And so they have these various different narratives, like Simon of Cyrene carrying the cross. Oh, why was there a controversy about whether it was somebody else who was carrying his cross? Oh, because it was just this guy named Simon of Cyrene who just bore his cross for him. And then the Jesus Barabbas thing. That is a narrative, in my humble opinion, trying to quell the controversies in the early period about Christians thinking that it was a different Jesus who was crucified. So they invent a Jesus Barabbas just basically to tell people, hey, the reason why you think that it was somebody else is because he just had the same name. So what are the odds that the same name, the same nickname would be under the same governor for basically the same crime, insurrection, claiming to be the king of the Jews? And so these traditions, I believe, are there to cover the prince, to show them, oh, this is why. And then it's all, like you said, it encapsulates with Paul's message, that he died for your sins, that he was resurrected at the third day. And all the scriptures say this.
It's all coincidence, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it seems that Paul was the one who propagated it, or he was the one who brought up or made up the story of Jesus' death and resurrection from the Old Testament in his own revelations. If you read 1 Corinthians 15, verses 3 to 5, I believe, he says that according to the scriptures, Jesus died for our sins. And according to the scriptures, he was raised from the third day, etc. 1 Corinthians 15. That just shows that Old Testament and visions were the source of the death and resurrection of Jesus. But if you go to the Old Testament, it's just not clear. It's not talking about any dying and rising Messiah. Uh, that just shows just the origins of where it came from. It didn't come from the disciples; it came from Paul. And if you read the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, like nobody actually sees Jesus being resurrected. No one sees Jesus rising from the dead. That gives credence to the theory that Jesus was taken from the tomb into heaven. And I think that explains the Quran chapter 4, verse 157. They didn't kill him, or they crucified him, just looked like they did. That means Jesus survived his crucifixion, and from the tomb he was taken into heaven, because there's something called the Q gospel, and the Q gospel talked about Jesus' assumption and not his resurrection. So it just gives credence to the Quran chapter 4, verse 157. They didn't kill him, or they crucified him.
So you said Q talks about Jesus' assumption?
Yeah, if you read the Q gospel in the book The Empty Tomb by Daniel A. Smith, the Q gospel predates Paul, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John by at least like 10 years. And it was talking about the assumption of Jesus, not the resurrection of Jesus.
Yeah, I know what Q is, but I wasn't aware that the Q material had the assumption, unless you're speaking about the shared material between Matthew and Luke about the prophecy in the Psalms, where it says he will, because that's in Q, yeah, where it says they shall lift you up lest you dash your foot against the stone. But
No,
it can't be in Q. The actual assumption can't be in Q, because none of the Gospels talk about his assumption. Like the passage in the ending of the Gospel of Luke about him, being raised is a later addition. It's only found in the Alexandrian line. It's what's called the Western non-interpolation, and Matthew doesn't mention Jesus being taken up to heaven. It's only in two places: in the Gospel according to Mark at the end, which is a later edition, and then the ending of the Gospel of Luke, which is a later edition.
no,
So
Jesus says in the Gospel of Matthew and Luke, "You will not see me until like the second coming," so that "you will not see me" language is talking about his disappearance and not his resurrection.
yeah, but assumption means like his ascent, taken up, right? Yes, I'm not sure if that's included.
Assumption means taken up into heaven, not by death, but by survival. And Daniel A. Smith goes into detail about this in his book, The Empty Tomb, where he talks about the Q gospel and how the Q gospel was talking about Jesus Jesus talking about his disappearance and not his resurrection appearance. So his hypothesis, or his thesis, is that Paul popularized the resurrection and appearance narrative, while the Q gospel popularized the disappearance of Jesus. And these two are harmonized in the Gospel of Mark. Because if you read the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, it ends with the empty tomb, but nobody actually sees the resurrected Jesus. Only in the ending of the Gospel of Mark, which came, I don't know, hundreds of years after the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, was written, that the so-called resurrected Jesus appears. But the Gospel of Mark ended with an empty tomb, and I find that interesting that it ended with the empty tomb and not the resurrection appearances of Jesus. So I think that validates the Quran chapter 4, verse 157. They didn't kill him, no, they crucified him, just looked like they did.
But how
Yeah.
does this explain Jesus appearing in the upper room and telling them, I am like literally telling them that he's alive, and because they thought he was a spirit. So, and he making clear that he's not, by asking if there is something to eat. Like, where does that come? Like, if that's the last record of what they wrote.
What are you talking about? The post-resurrected appearances?
Yeah, in the upper room. Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about tomb. Yeah, the empty tomb.
Yeah, if you read
And Jesus appearing next to the tomb.
oh yeah, if you read the gospel of yeah, if you read all the gospels, if you read the resurrection accounts, they're wildly, it seems like they're just made up, because the gospel of Matthew has zombies coming out of the tombs of Jerusalem and walking around. There's no record of this other
Matthew
than the
20.
gospel of Matthew. So why is there
That's always
no
my favorite passage.
yeah, well,
Whenever I want to challenge Christians to prove that the crucifixion and resurrection actually happened, I ask them to prove the event on Matthew 27. Until today, no Christian can prove it to me historically.
yeah, the zombies come out, and why is there no record of this? Why is Matthew the only one who records this? That just shows that they were just making stuff up as time went on. And the Gospel of Luke, if you read the ending of the Gospel of Luke, they don't recognize Jesus. Why is that? Because Jesus appeared as some kind of visionary appearance. And then the Gospel of Matthew says some doubted when they saw Jesus. Why would they doubt it was Jesus when they knew it was they knew Jesus, right? So this shows that it was not the Jesus who came after the crucifixion, wasn't the same like flesh and blood version that they knew before the crucifixion. It's very interesting stuff. You know.
But I mean, how come? But this is different than, for example, what Mark is the only one who has this, like, 500 zombies walking out of their grave. But the account of the upper room is mentioned in multiple gospels. So if it's if it's not just by one, and it's been mentioned by multiple, then isn't there a bigger chance that there is some, I don't know, there's some like it's harder to just put it on the side because it's just one person, but multiple people who basically
Can you
have,
clarify? I'm not understanding the question.
yeah, sorry, it's I did woke up in Fajr and I stayed up. It's 6 a.m. here. So basically, in the upper room, so basically the whole scenario is mentioned in multiple multiple gospels, right?
Yeah, it's in Matthew, in different ways.
Yeah, in different ways.
Yeah.
But isn't that then less easy to throw aside?
Who wants to throw it aside? I'm so confused. Who's throwing it aside?
No, that's what I'm asking, because from what I'm hearing, it's like that basically he never reappeared after his alleged crucifixion or his alleged resurrection.
Nobody denies that there were appearances of Jesus to the disciples, not Muslims and not Christians. We're just saying that it wasn't a post-resurrection appearance. He gathered his disciples in the upper room and maybe had that last meal, like it says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, and then went to heaven.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. No. I mean, that from the Islamic point, I agree totally. But then why do they mention that it's not post pre resurrection, and why is it written then as if it was after the resurrection, after they heard that the master was hanged, that they appeared
sorry,
to him?
I don't understand. Do you guys get the question?
I think he's asking why
I
is
think
there...
the brother. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go
brother,
ahead, man.
Isham.
Go ahead, man. Go
Isham.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think the brother was asking whether the story of the Eucharist was before or after the resurrection, before the crucifixion, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Whether the assumption of Jesus was before or after?
No, the story of the Eucharist, whether the story of the Eucharist was before or after
Of the Christ? You mean the Eucharist? The Eucharist?
Eucharist, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Pardon my accent. Yeah, pardon.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
mean, if you read it, Jesus is going out of his way to prove he's not a spirit. He says, "Handle me and see. A spirit has no flesh and bones,
Yeah, that's
as you
what I
see
meant.
I have." You know, and then he eats the boiled fish and honeycomb. So if you read the Gospel of Luke, it's trying to say that Jesus came back as flesh and bone, as a physical
By
form.
the way, that whole discussion of handle me and see, for a spirit hath no flesh and bone, that's probably also a later edition. So there's this book called Seeing a Pneuma. You can find it on Academia and on Brill by a Lucan scholar, and he goes through like evidence after evidence and shows that this was called what is called an anti-docetic narrative. The subscript of the book was the apologetic interests of Luke chapter 24, where it shows that because there were early Christians who were called docetics, a lot of the quote unquote Gnostic community had this belief that Jesus did not have a physical body. It was just a disembodied spirit. In one of the letters of Ignatius, he says that I'm not a disembodied demon. You know, so the gospel according to Luke and John, which are basically the two latest gospels according to church history and according to modern day textual criticism, they introduced this in there to kind of refute the docetics, saying no, Jesus did have a flesh and body, because look, he said, "Handle me and see, for a spirit hath no flesh and bones." You know, because if that verse actually existed in the two communities that were majority quote unquote Gnostics, so the gospel according to Luke, there was a proto Luke used by somebody named Marcion of Sinope, and his followers were docetics. They didn't think that Jesus was a human being; just thought that he was like an aeon, a projection, like a straight from heaven type of guy. And in the Gospel of John as well, this is the Alexandrian communities, the people like Ptolemy and Heraclian, who were also docetic. And so these narratives were included into these revised Gospels in order to refute them. But as far as the commonality of having a last meal, I think that that's derived from an old tradition, because they both agree that they had a meal, but all of them agree that they had a meal. They just don't agree on the details or what happened or what was said. Same thing with, they all agree that he was born of a virgin, but Luke has a different story, Matthew has a different story. So they utilize various sources, Luke using his sources, Matthew using the Old Testament, in order to come up with a story. So the best that we can actually say from a historical perspective, in my opinion, is that there was a last meal at some point where he, bid his disciples farewell. And the details of it are just too fuzzy from a historical perspective to actually discern. But of course, we take it on faith that he told his disciples, to follow him, and who will be the helpers of Allah. وقال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله. And then he told them, and whoever turns back from amongst you, then Allah will punish him a punishment that he has not punished anyone before.
Oh, interesting. So, with regards to Surah Al-Ma'idah, the event of of Jesus and his disciples at the meal, you think that refers to the Last Supper?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it refers to the Last Supper, and because I think that's historical, the meal that Jesus and the disciples shared before his crucifixion, I think that is historical. I think there's like very few things in the Gospels that are historical, and I think like Jesus' baptism and his crucifixion are like the most historical, in the Last Supper. I think these are the three most historical things about Jesus. Like the virgin birth, we can take that on faith, but like his history tells us that Jesus was crucified, and history tells us that Jesus was baptized. The rest of the stuff is not historical, concerning according to even Christian scholars themselves. But yeah, I mean, there's a few things in the Gospels that I think are historical. I think the Last Supper is one of them. And it's confirmed by the Quran that the disciples asked for food, and they got food in Quran chapter 5. So I think, that is historical, not only by faith, not only according to our faith in the Quran, but according to history. The few things we can know about Jesus, the Gospels agree upon the Last Supper.
Interesting. Yes. And on that note, unfortunately, I would have to end the stream soon, because I can hear my relatives at the door now. Okay, so yeah, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up really quick. I'm sorry, but before I wrap this up, any last words you guys want to say before I end the stream?
Hey, I got a interview with Farhan Qureshi. I got 2 videos with him. What do you think of that, Menj?
Interesting, but he's not active anymore in apologetics, isn't he? So and besides, he's not even a Muslim anymore. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think I've seen those before anyway, but they're still interesting regardless. Yeah.
You can see why like source criticism and textual criticism keeps scholars up at night. There's so many things to like play with and to prod with and to
Yeah,
discover.
definitely. You know, I mean, I have Erman's books here. I have Ellen Begel's book here. I have even Dr. Martin's book here as well. So and then I have other Christian texts here, but I can't finish all of them.
You said Elaine Pagel's, the book on the Gospel of Thomas?
Yep, the very same Ellen Pagel's, yes.
It's called Beyond Belief, right? Or something like that.
No, I only got 2 of her books. The one about the Gnostic Gospels, where she wrote about the Gnostic Gospels, and another one about Armageddon, about the Book of Revelations.
Well, you should get her book on Thomas, bro.
Oh, really? I will, inshallah.
That's her, magnum opus.
Oh, I thought it was the Gnostic Gospel.
Nah, bro. She's like the world's premier Thomasian scholar.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I thought she was an expert on
what is it? Yeah. So that's what changed her mind on Gnosticism. If you read the intro to that book, she said that when she read the excerpts from the early church fathers about the traditions of the Gospel of Thomas, she was expecting to find something like the Apocrypha of John, just very philosophical, very weird. Yeah, but then when the fragments were discovered, she found out that it was just a bunch of lies. The early church fathers were just slandering this text, and it's very Jewish. It's very orthodox.
All right, guys, unfortunately, I gotta go. So it was nice talking to you, Menj.
Nice to end the stream. Yeah, nice talking to you. I hope that next week you'll come on, inshallah. Yes. Sorry about today. It's a bit rushed because I have family coming over. Sorry.
No, I got stuff to do too. Yeah, I got some work stuff to do. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, you guys have a good night. All right.
You too, bro.
Yes. So yes. So brother Dawood and
I just have anything to say. I just wanted to say, like, if I'm not mistaken, that the King James version of the Bible was the one pushed to the masses, and if you just like, what shocked me is when I read through it and noticed that in the preface it said that basically that that there are grave errors in this like
no,
grave errors.
That's the revised King James version.
Well, even though it is the revised one, it is still in the hands of the public. And if they read, if you would open a book, any book, and it says that, would you then continue? Like, it needs revision, but here, read it.
Some of that stuff, like I said, Ahmed Didat rahimahullah and Zakir Naik hafizahullah, they sometimes go overboard with these things, just because
they had limited knowledge as well, because I don't think in that time there was this kind of scholarly work that they discovered and stuff now.
No, it was there. It was there. Like, in fact, I think better work was done in the like 70s and 80s.
I think they're not focused into it. So it's not their fault. Okay, they are dying. They are not apologists. Okay, there's a difference. I always emphasize the difference. Okay, so
I get it.
With all due respect to Sheikh Didat, and and Dr. Zakir Naik, they don't drill in deep into textual criticism like how Brother Wessam and Brother Etesham and even I do. So I mean, their approach is totally different. We totally get it because their audience is meant for the layman. So
Exactly.
the
I think they
layman
had to
doesn't.
dumb it down. I think they had to dumb
Okay.
it down. Yeah.
Yes,
For
exactly.
the
I mean,
audience.
the layman is not the layman is not going to know or care about what manuscripts are dated this and are the authors really written, are really Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. They don't care about this kind of details. They just want to know whether it's true or false. So to their credit, Sheikh Didar and Zakir Naik has done this very well, but their focus is totally different. You have to keep in mind that they have a different audience. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, it's just I always caution people to be wary of apologetic material because honestly, like even I don't know what the future holds for like me, you, and anybody else. But sometimes when you get to that stage and you have people in front of you, you kind of sometimes become like motivated by wanting to like get shock value, wanting to get applause, wanting to get reactions, and so sometimes some of these things are overplayed, and then later on, more knowledgeable people notice this and they say, oh well, I get what else was I lied to about, or what else was exaggerated. The differences between the NR, the New Revised King James, and the original like 1611 King James version are not that much. They just kind of utilize
Right.
a few different manuscripts. Basically.
I agree with you, Sam, in the sense of I don't go into territory that I don't know. I can definitely, if anyone who gives da'wah and goes with the intention of having shock value or applause, and then you're not doing it for the sake of Allah, and that's not the point. But there's like the basics, right? The basics that could be discussed, not going into too much detail. The moment there is an intellectual debate or a conversation, then don't only speak if you have the knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge, don't speak, like something that the Prophet ﷺ teached us as well. Like
Yes.
so that's why I said with him, you're in the field. You you go. You stay in front. We'll stay in the back. We'll
He
just
doesn't
carry
want
the bags.
Not really, bro.
his stuff. See, he's being modest again. I mean, Brother Esa, I mean, you can't fool me. I know I can recognize a fellow biblical textual criticism student or scholar when I see one.
Wallahi,
Right? So
I'm none of that. I'm literally none of that. I read a few books and I watched a few lectures and debates. Yeah, okay, it's nothing. It's not difficult.
I
Yeah,
think from my experience, I don't think it's just a few books as you modestly claim. Okay, so but
no.
anyway, I mean, I think anyway, I'm sorry, guys, but brothers, I'm really sorry, but I have to end this now because my family, right?
Yeah.
So
No
anyway,
problem.
yes, thank you very much
Thank you, brother Menj.
for
Thank
joining.
you. Yeah,
Yes,
brother Menj. Thank you
I'm
so
really
much.
sorry that at this time, right now we have run the stream for about 2 hours and 20 minutes, and there's 7 viewers right now watching the live stream. Mashallah, that's good numbers. But unfortunately, I have to end the
Oh,
stream.
wait. I gotta tell you something. I gotta tell you something before we hang up. I've been
All right.
talking to
Okay, go ahead.
I've been talking to Justin on some of his community posts and some of his recent shorts and
Oh,
videos.
okay. All right.
And
All right.
unfortunately, the guy is back to platforming Sam Shamoun and asking him for advice on Islam and discussing Islamic.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you want to have conversations with him in the future, like try to kind of instill it and emphasize it to him. Show him some videos of this guy. Maybe he
Yeah.
generally doesn't know, because I have high regard for Justin, and I think that he's one of the few like
Yeah,
good
I do.
Christians out there.
Likewise. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
to be honest,
I think it's
Sam
quite open.
Shamoun is a litmus test. If you call yourself a Christian, or you want to be in the polemical sphere and engage with Muslims and interfaith dialogue, and yet you're platforming some like literally the vilest person in the entire thing, then I'm sorry, that trumps everything that I can expect from you.
Yes, I understand. Yes, I am going to have to see how to deal with Justin about this. Yes. but I think he's a nice person actually. You know, in spite of him doing this, I think he's sincere, or he seems to be sincere, at least when he comes here. So let's see, inshallah. Let's still give him the chance, all right? Benefit of the doubt, right?
Inshallah. Thank you so much, guys.
Right. So
Brother
anyway,
Menj
yeah.
and Brother
Right,
Sam.
right. So I hope that you guys will come in next week, inshallah. I hope that as you know, I do this live stream around this hour every week. At least I try to every week on Sunday. So hopefully you guys can come in again next week, inshallah. Very good to have you, by the way, Brother Wesam, and also you, Brother Daud, mashallah. So yes, okay. So before I end the stream, cue in intermission. Right. So yeah, that's my intermission. Yeah, I know you're giggling at that. You must be laughing at that, right?
Oh my God! I thought
yeah,
it was my cat. I thought it was my cat.
All right. So anyway,
did I feed her?
And yeah. No, it's just a recorded sound of a cat, a random cat, which
Yalla habibi, have good fun. Have a lot of fun with the family, and enjoy.
All right.
And I hope to hear you soon.
I have to really go now. I'm really sorry. I can, yes,
Hello, stop saying
inshallah,
sorry.
yes.
Stop saying
So
sorry.
I saw Brother, I can see, yeah, mashallah. I can see Brother Aladdin here. Assalamualaikum, Sheikh. I'm sorry I have to end the stream, right? Because family is at the door, right? So anyways, thank you very much, everyone, for joining this live stream, for watching this live stream, for participating in this live stream. I do appreciate your support. And inshallah, I'll be having a live stream again, next week, okay, around this time as well, inshallah. If I can, I mean, I hope I can. If it's not possible for me to do, of course, I will announce it in advance. If you like this video, please do not forget to like this video, and please share this video to everyone that you know. Tell them about this live stream that I do every week.
And become a member.
And with
become a member, support the channel.
Yes, of course. Please do support the channel, right? If you want to, and yes, do become a paid member like Brother Servant of Allah has done. He has become a paid member as well. Okay, so if you would like to join this, support this movement as part of the Muslim Apologist team or family, you can become a member as well. Okay, there's a link. The link is actually scrolling right now at the bottom. You can just join that. There are 3 tiers to the membership tier. Okay, the paid membership tier, and I think the lowest tier is only about a few cents USD, right? So, and with that, thank you very much for joining. Inshallah, I'll see you again in my next live stream. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.